This winter, more than ever, with COVID-19 still circulating, we need help to reduce all avoidable risks. You can help protect the NHS, social care and loved ones by getting the flu vaccine. You may be eligible for the free vaccine at your GP or local pharmacy if you are over 65, pregnant or have a long-term condition. Find out if you are eligible at nhs.uk/staywell. Children up to Year 7 can get the free nasal spray at school or through their GP if they are below school age. If you are not eligible for the free vaccine, you can pay for it at your local pharmacy. The flu vaccination does not give you flu. It reduces the risk of catching flu as well as spreading it to others. If you had the vaccination in the past, that will not protect you as the flu strain changes every year, so you need to have a new one this year. It is also important to wash your hands often with warm water and soap. Use tissues when you cough or sneeze and bin used tissues as quickly as possible. Thank you for helping to protect yourself and loved ones this winter.
COVID-19 is in our communities and the number of cases is on the rise. So it's essential that we each play our part in full by following all of the government guidance. Only by doing this can we keep our schools and businesses open. If you're young and healthy, you may feel the virus isn't a threat to you. But someone more vulnerable to coronavirus than you, perhaps someone closer to you than you realise, is depending on you to play your part in breaking the chain of transmission. So I'm asking everyone to do their bit. Stick to the rule of 6 for gatherings indoors or outdoors. Wash your hands thoroughly and regularly. Wear a face covering in enclosed spaces. Observe social distancing of 2 metres or 1 metre plus precautions where 2 metres really isn't possible. Follow all of the guidelines about car sharing. If you have symptoms, self-isolate and get a free test immediately. If we work together on this, we can control the spread of the virus. Thank you.
My name's Jonathan Gribbin. I'm the Director of Public Health for Nottinghamshire County, and I'd like to tell you about the COVID-19 Local Outbreak Control Plan for Nottinghamshire. It's all about containing the virus so that we can protect one another, safeguard our critical services, and enable our schools, our workplaces, our communities to flourish again. And the plan describes how we will do that in Nottinghamshire. It complements the national test and trace arrangements, and it builds on local arrangements with key partners like Public Health England, the district and borough councils, the city council and our local NHS. It identifies a range of settings such as schools, workplaces, universities, care homes and so on, which require specific plans to deal with any fresh outbreaks of the virus. It describes how we'll be monitoring on a daily basis to spot if there are any new outbreaks, and then coordinating action to investigate and deal with them, deploying extra testing capacity if we need to, or contact tracing as appropriate. The plan also deals with how we will continue to provide support for people who are made vulnerable because they need to self-isolate, and we'll be doing that through our community support hub. and we'll refine the plan as we go along to reflect the latest best practice and the information which government will be providing to the Council. Finally, I want to acknowledge the lengths to which so many people and organisations have gone to already in recent months to stick with the guidance, to maintain social distancing of 2 metres wherever possible, to wash your hands thoroughly and frequently, to stay at home if you or someone in your household has symptoms, to get tested and to follow the advice that you receive when you get the result. By observing the guidance, you're protecting not only your own life and livelihood, that of your friends and also your loved ones, but also that of people you may never meet, but people who you're depending on and whom we must each depend as well. Your role in that is critical. Thank you for your help to contain the virus.
COVID-19 is in our communities and the number of cases is on the rise. So it's essential that we each play our part in full by following all of the government guidance. Only by doing this can we keep our schools and businesses open. If you're young and healthy, you may feel the virus isn't a threat to you. But someone more vulnerable to coronavirus than you, perhaps someone closer to you than you realise, is depending on you to play your part in breaking the chain of transmission. So I'm asking everyone to do their bit. Stick to the rule of 6 for gatherings indoors or outdoors. Wash your hands thoroughly and regularly. Wear a face covering in enclosed spaces. Observe social distancing of 2 metres or 1 metre plus precautions where 2 metres really isn't possible. Follow all of the guidelines about car sharing. If you have symptoms, self-isolate and get a free test immediately. If we work together on this, we can control the spread of the virus. Thank you.
This winter, more than ever, with COVID-19 still circulating, we need help to reduce all avoidable risks. You can help protect the NHS, social care and loved ones by getting the flu vaccine. You may be eligible for the free vaccine at your GP or local pharmacy if you are over 65, pregnant or have a long-term condition. Find out if you are eligible at nhs.uk/stay well. Children up to Year 7 can get the free nasal spray at school or through their GP if they are below school age. If you are not eligible for the free vaccine, you can pay for it at your local pharmacy. The flu vaccination does not give you flu. It reduces the risk of catching flu as well as spreading it to others. If you had the vaccination in the past, that will not protect you as the flu strain changes every year, so you need to have a new one this year. It is also important to wash your hands often with warm water and soap. Use tissues when you cough or sneeze and bin used tissues as quickly as possible. Thank you for helping to protect yourself and loved ones this winter.
My name's Jonathan Gribbin. I'm the Director of Public Health for Nottinghamshire County, and I'd like to tell you about the COVID-19 Local Outbreak Control Plan for Nottinghamshire. It's all about containing the virus so that we can protect one another, safeguard our critical services, and enable our schools, our workplaces, our communities to flourish again. and the plan describes how we will do that in Nottinghamshire. It complements the national test and trace arrangements, and it builds on local arrangements with key partners like Public Health England, the district and borough councils, the City Council.
Discussions which I shall lead. Firstly, can we have introductions, please? Would the council please introduce yourselves? Have Councillor Phil Rostance.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I'm Councillor Phil Rostance. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Communities and Place Committee at the Nottinghamshire County Council.
Thank you. And your legal representation.
Good morning, sir. My name's Graham Keane, Queen's Counsel on behalf of Notts County Council.
Thank you.
And good morning, sir. My name is Simon Smith. I am sitting behind Mr. Keane in a technical sense, so to speak, today only.
Thank you. And the council's officers, could you introduce yourselves, please?
Good morning, sir. My name's Steve Osborne-James and I'm the Minerals Local Plan team leader.
Thank you.
Good morning, sir. I'm Suzanne Osborne-James. I'm a Principal Planning Officer with the Council's Planning Policy team.
Thank you. I think you're on mute. Could you unmute yourself?
Very sorry. Have to get used to muting and unmuting. Good morning, sir. My name's Catherine Haley. I'm from Nottinghamshire County Council's Policy Planning team. I'm Principal Planning Officer.
Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak today from Nottinghamshire County Council? And interested parties, please.
Yes, feeling slightly outnumbered here, but Julian Coles from Barton and Fabis Parish Council, but representing a number of bodies collectively, so Clifton Village Residents Association, Thrumpton Parish Meeting, and SAVE.
Okay, thank you. The programme officer is Ian Kemp. You will have already had contact with him. He is responsible for organising all of the hearing sessions and the publication of documentation associated with the hearing. He is the first point of contact. If you need any assistance with any of the hearing session arrangements, please contact Mr. Kemp. Okay, now guidance notes have been published they're on the website, and they cover the hearing arrangements and also the specific arrangements for the virtual procedure. If I just briefly run through some of those, if anyone wishes to speak at any time, there is a hands up facility. If you just click on the hand symbol at the top of the screen. There is a screen share facility available on Microsoft Teams, but I would ask that you don't use that, please. Please, as you are doing, keep your microphones muted, except of course when you wish to speak. You can leave your cameras on or off. If we get a lot of participants and there are problems with the bandwidth, we may need to people may need to turn their cameras off, but we'll see how it goes. And of course, if anyone doesn't want their face to be seen in the hearing, you can of course give evidence without your camera on. Now, I'm hoping that there won't be any loss of internet connection, but if anyone does suffer from any loss of connection, please contact Ian Kemp who will attempt to get you to reconnect. During the hearings, please ensure that there are no other devices. We want to avoid unnecessary sound interference and echoing, so please ensure that other devices are switched off. Okay, the progress so far on the Minerals Local Plan. The submission draft of the plan was published on the 30th of August 2019 for consultation until the 11th of October, and it was submitted to the Planning Inspectorate on the 6th of February 2020. I produced my matters, issues and questions and further supplementary questions. The Council and other participants have provided their responses to those questions, and they're in the form of hearing statements, which are available on the Council's website. Also on the website, there is a hearing programme and an agenda. I intend to go through the plan in policy order, the exception being site MP2P, Mill Hill, near Barton in Fabis, and there's a separate session for that particular site allocation, which is on Tuesday afternoon. The participants listed in the programme for each session will have the opportunity to put their cases, and others will have the opportunity to respond, and I may also have some questions. The hearing is scheduled to take place over 3 days, from Monday to Wednesday, and I intend to have a review session with the Council on Thursday. I have visited all of the sites that are proposed for allocation in the plan and seen them from public viewpoints. My role is to consider the soundness of the plan in accordance with the criteria set out in the National Planning Policy Framework, and also whether the plan is legally compliant. The purpose of the hearing sessions is to assist me in this. The starting point is that the Council has submitted a plan that it considers to be sound. If you are challenging the soundness of the plan, then you have to explain why you think it is unsound and what changes would make the plan sound. I have read and will take into account the original representations that were made. There is no need for these to be repeated. Instead, my aim is that the discussion moves on from those submissions and deals with specific questions that I have, or areas where further clarification or explanation is required. At times, I may ask for a more general contribution or a summary of your position. Please keep your comments focused on the matter in hand and avoid commenting on unrelated matters. If you wish to comment on what has been said, then please indicate this by using the hand up facility. When you have spoken, please don't forget to cancel the hands up. In speaking during the hearing, I ask that you are concise and specific. In particular, if you wish to highlight certain parts of your statement or other documents that form part of the examination, then that will be helpful to me when reporting. Any questions that I may ask do not indicate that I have made up my mind. Such questions are intended to provide clarification or further explanation of any point made at the hearing or in the written submissions in order to test the evidence. Now, the Council has produced a list of modifications to the plan based on the correspondence so far, and that is in the examination library on the website. Now, this list of modifications may progress, may be added to or amended as the hearing progresses. It is open to the Council to propose further modifications. I would ask that the Council keep a record of any that arise during the hearing discussions. There is a distinction between main modifications and additional modifications. Main modifications are those which alter the substance of the plan or the planning policies. Additional modifications are more minor changes, such as typographical changes or grammatical changes, which do not alter the substance of the plan. The final schedule of main modifications will be subject to further consultation before I prepare my report. The examination will remain open until my report is submitted to the Council. No further representations or evidence will be accepted after the hearing sessions have finished unless I specifically request this. At the end of the hearing sessions, I will indicate how the next phases of the examination will progress and will aim to indicate likely timescales. The entitlement to speak on a particular policy only exists where previous representations have been made on it and where changes are sought. So discussion on each policy is limited to those listed. As the purpose is to hear views on whether policies are sound, it is not permissible to hear comments in support of particular policies or allocations or about sites which are not proposed for allocation. So therefore, I do not wish to hear any submissions about alternative sites that may have been considered, and I do not wish to hear representations in support of the allocated sites. Although, having said that, information which is of assistance in clarifying points made during the discussion will be of assistance to me. The morning sessions on each day will start at 10 o'clock and the afternoon sessions at 2 o'clock. I intend to break for lunch for about 1 hour from 1 o'clock on each day, and to have short mid-morning and mid-afternoon breaks. Are there any questions before we proceed? Okay, this morning we are to discuss matter 1, which is the duty to cooperate and other legal matters. First of all, the Council will make its opening statement. I understand Councillor Rostance will make the statement.
That's me. Thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. As mentioned, I am Councillor Phil Rostance. I'm Vice Chairman of the County Council's Communities and Place Committee. And on behalf of the Council, I'd firstly like to welcome everybody to these hearing sessions and thank all of those who have taken the time to respond and contribute to the preparation of the Minerals Local Plan. Now, as Vice Chairman of the Communities and Place Committee, I know just how much work has gone into preparing this plan. We've listened carefully to the needs of the minerals industry and the concerns of local residents to help us prepare an up-to-date Minerals Local Plan to guide the future development of minerals in our county up until 2036. Nottinghamshire has a long history of minerals working and is most widely known for its coal mining industry. There are no longer any active collieries, but a wide range of minerals are still worked across Nottinghamshire, used for construction, manufacturing and energy. Maintaining a steady and adequate supply of these minerals to meet future demands is therefore the primary role of this new plan. Sand and gravel is now our largest extractive industry, with over 60% of sand and gravel extracted in Nottinghamshire exported to neighbouring areas. As a result, the plan makes provision for the continued supply of sand and gravel to meet both local and wider needs. In contrast, the county has very limited resources of crushed rock, such as limestone, and in turn relies on neighbouring authorities in Derbyshire and Leicestershire to help meet our ongoing needs there. Nottinghamshire is also one of the few areas across the UK with high-grade gypsum is currently extracted. Other minerals worked are brick clay, silica sand, building stone, aggregate limestone and oil. Some of these minerals also support locally important industries such as brickworks. Nottinghamshire also has potential mineral resources that have not been exploited but could be in the future. These include industrial dolomite found in a small area in the northwest of the county, and potential shale gas resources which are thought to exist in the north and south of the county. It is therefore vitally important that we have a robust and up-to-date plan in place to meet the future needs. We've been through 3 separate stages of consultation with our local communities, the minerals industry, environmental groups, service and infrastructure providers, local and neighbouring councils to produce this plan. There'll be those who disagree with parts of the plan, and we welcome this opportunity to explore these concerns through these hearing sessions. With minerals planning, as with any development, there are difficult issues which have to be addressed, and I know that we cannot please everyone. However, I strongly believe that this plan strikes the right balance between providing the essential minerals for the county's prosperity and supporting future economic growth, whilst protecting our environment and the quality of the life of those living and working in Nottinghamshire. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Well, on their duty to cooperate, the council has answered the questions that I had. I have no further questions on that at all. So if we could proceed on to the points, Barton and Fabus Parish Council, please, Mr. Coles. I understand you have some points, particularly about the statement of community involvement.
I do. Excuse me. Yes, we do. Our submission is not about the duty to cooperate with other councils, but about how the county council has failed to consult properly with the community. Indeed, it's worth noting that the council in its written statement under this matter makes no reference to its obligations under the statement of community involvement. We ask you to note 2.14, page 60 of the council's SD23 statement of community involvement, and the statement in there that the county council is required to comply with the measures set out in the SDI when preparing its minerals and waste development plan documents. Evidence given at the independent examination which shows otherwise could result in the inspector at the independent examination recommending that a development plan be withdrawn. We believe that we provided just that evidence in 3 respects: failure by the council to abide by its own SDI, failure to respond to or take account of responses in the consultation, and failure to provide you with the full documentation and responses for the organisations we represent in a timely manner. And as we note from the Friends of the Earth written statement, this applies to other organisations as well. Firstly, failure to abide by the council's statement of community involvement. I don't intend to repeat the detail of our written statement, but would highlight some key points. The area impacted by the site MP2P, Mill Hill near Barton and Fabus, does does not just impact a few villages in a rural area. It's unique amongst all sites, and that it is, as well as around 12% of the site being within the Nottingham city area, it also abuts densely populated areas of the city. So 16,000 people live within a mile of the site. The majority of these people live in the communities of Clifton, Clifton Village and Lark Hill in the Nottingham City Council area. We have highlighted the requirements under 3.14, 3.15 and 3.2 of the SCI to engage with those residents. Nottingham City have a network of area committees representing local people, specifically Area 8 Committee and Clifton East and West Committee. Nottingham City Council's governance officer has confirmed Nottingham County Council have never attended either committees. Document SD5 consultation statement, Appendix A, pages 65 to 69, does not list any forums, residents associations or area committees in Nottingham City in the list of organisations that have been consulted, such as Clifton Village Residents Association
and Lark Hill Residents Association. The UK's, I should just make a comment on Lark Hill, the UK's largest retirement village at Lark Hill will be impacted by this development, and some 40% of their residents suffer from breathing difficulties and have also been discriminated, in our view, discriminated against by their inability to access information at Clifton Library, i.e. they can't travel 1.5 miles away, or in some cases being able to access matters online. At every stage of consultation, we have pointed out the Council's failure to fulfil its obligations under its own SCI, e.g. as noted in pages 21 and 42 of the consultation statement. It has taken no action to rectify the situation, e.g. page 21 of the consultation statement. Indeed, we ask you to note that we raised similar points regarding the SCI with respect to the previous draft MLP as far back as July 2014. Secondly, failure to respond or take account of responses to the consultation. We ask you also to take account of the submission from Lillian Greenwood MP on this topic. At crucial stages, council officers have in their reports to committee and council downplayed the weight and nature of responses made to the consultation from areas I represent, thereby misleading council members. The MLP draft plan consultation summary document recorded 1,031 responses in relation to sand and gravel provision, compared to 20 to 30 for most other policies, but neglected to highlight that 1,000 of these responses relate to the Mill Hill site. There is misleading and dismissive reference to a large number of pro forma responses, and that ignores the fact that firstly, the core text was agreed at an open meeting and therefore represents a collective view, and second, the vast majority of responses included in addition personalised objections. In other words, people wrote in their own words as well, and yet they were dismissed. The council response in the MLP draft plan consultation summary document to our representations was merely to state that these could be addressed at the detailed planning stage. This was despite the fact that firstly, the examination of a planning application for the Mill Hill site has been going on in parallel for some 3.5 years and has not successfully addressed these issues. And secondly, the issues raised were strategic, e.g. the sudden inclusion of geographical spread as a criteria for selecting sites, and the failure to prioritise sites with potential transport for sand and gravel by barge, contrary to SO1, which is obviously matters we'll cover later. Later in the information advice provided by to the full council on 11th of July 2019, along with a recommendation to approve the publication version of the MLP, reference was made to 1,744 representations from 1,101 organisations and individuals, again without any reference to the fact that over 1,000 representations referred to just one site, Mill Hill. We wrote to all councillors ahead of the full council on 11th of July 2019 on these matters, but no action was taken to rectify. Thirdly, failure to provide you with the full documentation and responses for the organisations we represent. This may have been down to simple error, but as Lillian Greenwood MP states, it has led to key strategic issues and shortcomings in the NLP not being raised at the right time. We are left with the conclusion that not only has the council demonstrably failed to abide by its own statement of community involvement, but also at every turn, the scale and nature of the objection to the Mill Hill site in particular has been downplayed to elected members, and representations have not been addressed. We've already highlighted to you the circumstances regarding the previous publication version of the plan which was withdrawn shortly before the scheduled EIP, and subsequent removal of the site of Shelford in the ward of the leader of the council, and the introduction of the previously rejected Mill Hill site. It will of course be up to you whether you conclude that these matters are related in what officers described to us in our meeting with Lillian Greenwood MP as a political decision. and invalidate, and whether they invalidate the MLP process as unsound and unjustified. All of the above, we contend, demonstrates that there is the evidence that we referred to earlier in the introduction to the statement of community involvement to withdraw the current plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There are quite a number of points made there by Mr. Coles, but would the council, I would ask that the council respond to them, please.
Good morning, sir. Sorry, Graham, did you want to?
Mr. Keane, yes.
Thank you, sir. I will ask Mrs. Osborne-James to respond to some of the very specific points that Mr. Coles has raised, but I wonder if I could start with a bit of an overview, very briefly, on duty to cooperate, just to set the context for the very specific criticisms that are now made. Briefly, sir, Section 33A of the 2004 Act, the Planning and Compulsory Purchase Act, imposes a duty on local planning authorities to engage constructively, actively, and on an ongoing basis on strategic cross-boundary issues, including, of course, the preparation of development plan documents. And so the council has therefore engaged collaboratively with other local planning authorities, mineral planning authorities, statutory bodies, utilities, infrastructure and service providers, and other prescribed bodies throughout the preparation of this minerals local plan. And so that has taken the form of consultation with each of the prescribed bodies in accordance with the Town and Country Planning Local Planning Regulations of 2012. There have been regular strategic planning meetings with Nottinghamshire District and Borough Councils, the City Council, Sheffield City Region and the other East Midlands Mineral Planning Authorities, the MPAs, both individually on specific issues and through the East Midlands Aggregates Working Party. And so you have the Council Statement of Compliance with the Duty to Cooperate, which is document SD6, and the Statement of Common Ground, SD7, that provides further detail. So pausing there, so the Council can confirm to you that there are no outstanding duty to cooperate matters which have been raised with the Council by those bodies. Briefly, in terms of wider consultation, so the Council, of course, recognises the importance of effective and ongoing consultation during plan making. It last reviewed and updated, indeed, its statement of community involvement, which is called document SD or inquiry document SD 23, in March of 2018. Although, as I'm just sure you're aware, so there's been a recent addendum to that in September of this year to take account of the coronavirus restrictions. But so the main point is consultation at each stage has been carried out in compliance with the SCI. And so whilst there's no specific requirement to notify or consult local residents or any other members of the public individually, the Council, of course, seeks to achieve an appropriate balance between consulting those directly and indirectly affected by proposals and the costs and practical limitations associated with consultation across what is a large county area. But so at each stage, the Council has notified all those on its consultation database, including all parish councils. It's published information on its website and social media channels, and it's provided press releases to local media to raise awareness of the proposals on a county-wide basis. And indeed, finally, so from me, at the local level, the Council has also held exhibitions at local venues and met with local residents and parish councils where it's been asked to do so. So I hope that's a useful overview. I appreciate Mr. Coles has made some more specific criticisms in relation to consultation with the groups that he represents. And I think Mrs. Osborne James was about to start responding to the detail, and perhaps I can hand to her now. So.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think firstly, in response, there is a point of clarification I would like to make that Mr. Coles refers to 12% of the allocation site being within Nottingham City Council area. Quite clearly, this isn't the case. It's the application that has straddled the boundary of the county and city areas. The allocation within the minerals plan only relates to land within the county council area. Picking up other points about in terms of who we were who we have consulted during the consultation, we weren't made aware of any difficulties with residents being able to access information at Clifton Library at the time. This is one of the specific points that has been raised. The library was chosen because it's a local community centre that's well used. It is wheelchair accessible for those with restricted mobility. In terms of the point of distance that Mr. Coles makes, appreciate there may be individuals who are unable to travel to the libraries, but that's the reason why information is made available in the other formats, as Mr. Keane has explained. All of the information that was on that display was available on the council's website. We were asked by the parish council to attend an exhibition, provide the material to them, and officers did attend there. We didn't receive any requests from other organisations to do similar, which we could have done if asked. I think I would also sort of reiterate the points that Mr. Keane has made, that whilst we do try to reach as many of the residents as we can, the SCI does point out there isn't a specific duty on us to consult every resident individually. We do feel that the parish councils and so on are best placed to help us publicise and disseminate information where we can. And we did receive, as Mr. Coles has said, more than 1,000 responses on this. I think 133 were from residents at the Lark Hill retirement village. And I think in terms of the response, the council didn't take account of more than 1,000 responses, and they were simply dismissed as pro forma. There's no suggestion on our part that we dismissed representations. They were making a common issue. All of the representations we received had the same commonly agreed wording with some changes either at the start or the end of those. They were reported to members. Our members would have been aware of that, and they could have sight of all the representations. All the material is available as background documents. And I think one final point, perhaps, sir, is that Mr. Coles has sort of suggested that we haven't taken account of those representations. I think this is perhaps more a case that we haven't necessarily done as the community would have wished. They don't want to see that allocation, and that is understandable, but it isn't a case that we haven't taken account of those representations. And there are very detailed matters in there that we feel can only be addressed through the planning application process that weren't strategic. They were very detailed, that you need to have the detail of a particular scheme in front of you before you could comment on those particular impacts. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Coles, do you want to respond to any points there made by the council?
Yes, please, sir. Yes, I would. I mean, Mr. Keane is clearly not familiar with the area, but we're not disputing that the council have liaised with other statutory bodies and councils. As I said right at the start, that's not my point, so that was largely irrelevant. He mentions parish councils frequently, and indeed the county council officers do as well. We're not talking about the parish councils. I accept that parish councils within the Nottinghamshire County area have been advised on what's available, but I repeat that as far as the city is concerned, it's effectively just a white map as far as the county council are concerned. They have not consulted with the equivalent organisations within the county council area. I agree. There was a short period when some 3 boards, I think, were put up in the Clifton Library, and council officers attended on one day, but that's hardly sufficient for a community of some 16,000 people. I'd hope that the council is not claiming any credit for the 1,000 responses, because I can tell you that has been a great deal of work on a number of organisations within the city. But frankly, they were on their own. They're not professionals. They're not full time, and they and that only applied in certain areas in terms of where the responses went in. And certainly the ones from Lark Hill were as a result of me addressing residents there, nothing whatsoever to do with the council. So I don't accept what the council don't seem to be putting up any defence that they liaised with groups within the city council, and those are clearly not listed in your list of ones that you did liaise with. So you cannot clearly say that. That's all I want to say on that point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Osborne-James, do you want to respond to that?
Thank you. Yes, just a minor point. As Mr. Coles has alluded, that there aren't any parish councils as such within the city council area. Obviously, we consulted with the city council, and they will have consulted their relevant local members and so on. The area committees meet, I think, 4 times a year. We report through a joint committee with the city on planning matters and matters of common interest. We weren't asked to attend any of those area committees, and as I understand it, they aren't actually a direct equivalent of a parish council. And from the consultation information we have, we also produce a waste local plan jointly with Nottingham City Council, and they provided consultee details to us. That didn't indicate any specific parish council equivalent or forum bodies that we should have contacted in this case. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I have no further questions on legal matters. Are there any further points that anyone wishes to make? Of course, I've got all the written representations. Okay.
So, if I may, sir,
yes,
just add one point. I mean, there seems to be an assumption from the council that but they haven't been told about individual areas or organisations to contact. It's not just about the area committees. It's people like Lark Hill Residents Association, Clifton Village Residents Association, etc., etc. But the requirement is quite clear within the SCI that the county council have a responsibility to contact organisations, not the other way around. And the point was mentioned that people hadn't requested additional information. Well, if they don't know about it, and you've made no attempt to contact them, how could they? As far as the representations are concerned, I've already said that there was no reference to the fact that so many had come from one side. And I can tell you that if it hadn't just been for local people doing the legwork, if you like, going from house to house, there are huge areas of the Clifton area, that particularly the Clifton estate, that are affected by this. Clearly had no approach from the council to liaise with their bodies, and a lot more would have responded on this particular site. I appreciate it's not a numbers game, but I think there has been an attempt to play down the impact of this particular site. It's unfortunately for the council, it's been a very inconvenient for them that the strength and force of community opinion regarding Mill Hill manifested, in the way they've dealt with this. The strength of our opinion on this has been downplayed, and I do appreciate. We understand the difficulties faced by officers who worked hard on the previous publication version of the plan, and which included a site at Shelford, rejected the Mill Hill site on environmental grounds. And we know that following a change in council control and the leadership passing to the ward member of Shelford just prior to the EIP. So officers were required to come up with a different answer, including the reintroduction of the Mill Hill site. And our opposition to it has been somewhat inconvenient to them, I guess, and I think accounts for the way that they have not adhered to the terms of the SEI. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Keane.
So thank you. Just three very quick points, please, if I may. The first is for the reasons you've heard from me and from Mrs. Osborne-James. There has been no breach of the Statement of Community Involvement, and in particular the paragraphs that have been referred to by Mr. Coles. And I won't seek to go through them, sir. You've read them, but I'll ask you to look at them again in due course. The second point is that for all the complaints that are made on behalf of the parish council and the group, and I fully accept that they object to many aspects of the plan, are perfectly entitled to do so, and that's partly why we're here. But what is clear, sir, and in particular in relation to this complaint that the consultation has been inadequate, is that, as we've just heard, over 1,000 representations have been received. So any suggestion that the consultation process that's been undertaken has somehow been inadequate is in itself belied by the number of people that have responded and responded with very clear views. And the last point, sir, from me is that the local authority, of course, in preparation for an examination like this, has to prepare a summary of representations. It's always possible, sir, for someone else to look at someone's attempt to summarise and say they would have been more expansive or would have done it differently. But I noted with some dismay that it was suggested that the summaries that had been prepared of the representations were misleading. Well, sir, of course, the officers of this authority have prepared summaries in good faith in an attempt to assist the inquiry and to progress matters appropriately. And I hope that there won't be any suggestion that they've behaved in any way improperly or to mislead you and the examination, sir. So those are the 3 points I wanted to make. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, Mrs. Osborne-James and Mr. Cole, you've still got your hands up. Do you still wish to speak?
If I may, sir, I would.
Yeah.
Just briefly, in answer to Mr. Keane, particularly in the second point, as I explained, he perhaps wasn't listening carefully, but as I explained, the 1,000 responses cannot in any way be down to the council's consultation process, and they should not claim that that is as a result of a sort of free and fair consultation process. That was down to a lot of us going around individuals in communities and getting those responses in. It would have been vastly more. We could only cover a small fraction of the 16,000 people in Clifton and other areas. So it had nothing whatsoever to do with the council's consultation process.
Okay, thank you very much. Just as a general point for future hearings, can you remember to cancel the hands up facility when you finished speaking? Okay, well, I have no further questions on legal matters. So I propose to adjourn until this afternoon's session now. And this afternoon's session starts at 2 o'clock, and that's we are looking at the vision, strategic objectives and strategic policies. There are quite a few more participants coming along for that session. So that starts at 2 o'clock, and it will probably go on till about 5 o'clock-ish. Are there any other matters that anyone wants to raise before we adjourn for the morning? Okay, well, thank you very much. And the hearing is adjourned until 2 o'clock this afternoon. Thank you.